It often seems that people would rather try to go acquire new skills and talents than really develop the ones they have. There's something about that shiny object out there that if I could just get this skill, I could be that much more effective than where I am today, rather than saying, what are the skills that I have and how might I be able to leverage them differently? We're going to discuss developing your gifts, how to do it, and more on episode 726 of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Whoa, Tom, that was a tough opening for me. That was like describing the first 20 years of my career.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was always trying to learn new stuff. All the time. Now, it's paid off now. I will say I have quite a broad brush of things I can do. Not great, but I can do them and I know about them. But boy, early in my career, later I'll list some of the things I acquired skills in.
Fair enough. I didn't imagine that my introduction alone, before we even got into the conversation, would have that kind of an impact.
Did you see my face plant with my head as you were speaking? Like, oh boy, this is me. I'm in trouble.
Seems like that happens fairly occasionally.
Fairly occasionally. I love that phrase.
Yeah, I'm not really sure I know what that really means. It was what seemed to make sense at the moment.
I love it. I cannot get my lights to work today. I am so sorry.
You gotta let it go.
Okay. I gotta let it go. That's it. All right. So how are you today?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Looking forward to another great episode of today's Antidote. How about yourself?
There might be some coaching coming into this one. I just have a hunch.
We'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen. It wasn't not intentional, that's for sure. All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, where each weekday, Bob and I have a conversation around a topic. This week's topic, as I mentioned, is discovering your gifts. Today, we're going to discuss a little bit about how to do it. We've had a good discussion so far all week about developing your gifts, and I imagine that this one will be intriguing as well. And as we go through this conversation, if you have thoughts or ideas that you would like to share as a part of it, please feel free, whatever social media you happen to be following us on, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or
my favorite, LinkedIn Live, baby.
Or LinkedIn Live, to share your thoughts and ideas. Because we know it'll add value to the show. It might be some insights that we had not considered as we try to help people figure out how to take their next step along their own unique pathway to success, especially if they are stuck with how to develop their gifts. And then at the end of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, that one thing that we see as an opportunity to help people move forward to achieve the success they desire. And of course, if you have one thing to share, please feel free to share it as well, because we know that might be the one thing someone else is looking for. It might be exactly what they need to help them move forward. Before we get into that conversation, though, each morning, Bob and I do celebrations. Bob, do you want to share why we do celebrations?
It's funny. I was going to offer that up today. We do celebrations, one, to look at things that we've done, steps we've taken primarily, and two, to really get ourselves in a frame of mind where we're ready, we're happy. Usually a celebration is a positive thing. So we go into the day, we go into the next thing going, wow, I had this success yesterday. Or I had this thing that happened really well this morning. Or I took this step I didn't think I could take. And I had it. So the thing I'm going to say is I've been working with a new system to talk through what I do with people. And yesterday was really the first time I used it in full with someone. And it really worked well. It really, all the things I've been saying for a couple of years came together in one graphic that really crystallizes what I do in a profound way. And so instead of getting the, well, how does that work? I got the, oh, that makes perfect sense. And if we're here, what would we do with this? And if we're there. So it's been a couple of months of getting used to this process, system, way of doing things, internalizing it, making it my own, because I'm just not the person who's going to use a script. And yesterday was the first day that I executed it, not flawlessly, but in a way that it got the result I was looking for. So all those last 2 or 3 months of really thinking about it and playing with it and twisting it and talking through it with friends and going through it in my head and going through it while I was driving and writing things on a sheet of paper, all that stuff finally came together in a really powerful way that does what I'm trying to do.
Did you ask yourself the 3 questions afterwards?
I did. I was driving home yesterday
Really?
and I asked those questions. I did.
Excellent. Because you really don't control the results.
I wasn't trying to control the results. My goal in this was to execute it in a way that got a response that I was looking for. Now, if I hadn't gotten the response, I knew before I got the response that I had executed it the way I wanted to. I knew. So getting the response was really that was icing on the cake. I knew I had delivered it the way that works for me.
Do you know what you just did there?
I do not. But I warned that coaching was coming, and I nailed it.
No, I think you in some ways just walked through exactly how to develop your gifts.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, folks. It's been a great episode, and we'll give
at least a part of it. I didn't say that was all of it.
Started late and we'll end early. The best episode ever.
I thought that, and so it was just
and someone's given us a thumbs up. Now, I don't know if they gave us a thumbs up for what I said or the fact that we just said we covered it in 4 minutes.
Yes. It's my friend Greg Heitner, who had a birthday the other day. So I'm going to, on this show, because I know he listens regularly.
Yes. Happy birthday, Greg. Many more.
He either listens or he's just kind enough because he's a friend that he just hits like. So maybe somebody else will listen. I haven't figured that out.
Either one. I applaud.
Correct. Either way, he had a birthday the other day. And so,
okay.
Again, and I called him. So I did have a chance to at least share it. But I'm going to share it on this show publicly to everyone else. Greg, happy birthday. He's a great guy. He's been a good friend for a long time since I worked at Towson. And
oh, okay. Is he a Towson grad?
Oh, yes. He's a very proud Towson grad.
All right. Go
active and engaged. Although it's interesting, and you'll appreciate this.
Roughly.
I'm sorry?
What year would he have graduated?
He's a couple years younger than me. So I think he graduated in like 94.
Okay.
I should remember that. I used to see it all the time when I was there.
I was 87. So
you'll find it fascinating that his oldest son, where do you think his oldest son goes to school?
Towson.
No.
Not Hamilton.
No.
No.
Who's a big rival of Towson?
Maryland?
No. Good Lord. Are you even a Towson alum, really?
It's changed over the years. Who is it?
Delaware.
Oh, okay.
Delaware's there's a big rivalry between. So his oldest son is at Delaware. Although he told me the other day that his youngest son is strongly considering Towson. So,
okay. All right.
So all of that is good. So happy birthday, Greg. That's my celebration.
Oh, there you go. Nicely done. So let's go through this and let's talk about how to develop your gifts, because we didn't plan this, and I guess I kind of walked through it. So let me see if I can walk through what I walked through. And first of all, I set a goal.
Yes.
I wanted to find a way to convey what I do as a business coach more powerfully, so people understood it more immediately, and so that they could better understand how it fit into their business pursuits, their life. The second thing I did was I looked around at options and really tried to figure out where the missing piece was for me. And I remember the day I stumbled upon this company that had some visuals, and I was like, whoa, this is really good. And I started to look into it, decided to work with that organization, and then really embraced it fully. So it wasn't just, I've seen other people who use this and they sort of come and go. I really dug in with both heels right away and really hey, you know what? This is important to me. I need to get this figured out. And I didn't just take it the way they delivered it, but I took it the way they delivered it and then made it mine. I would compare it to when I was teaching college. Often you get someone who's kind enough to give you their syllabus and say, hey, I've taught this course before. Here's how I taught it. First semester, I'd always follow their syllabus to a T. The second time I taught it, I'd be like, I don't really like the way they talk about this. I don't really like this PowerPoint. I don't like this thing and this thing and this thing. And so by the fourth time I taught it, it was uniquely mine. Like you wouldn't, it had echoes of what that person did, but it was really Bob's flavor of ice cream. And I think that's part of this, that sometimes when we're developing our gifts. So if you looked at my presentation to this prospective client yesterday, you would see that there are areas that tie to my strengths that I probably highlighted more than other areas. I didn't go super heavy into financials. I know them, I can do them. But when you talk about customer acquisition, marketing, employee relations, I went heavily there. And I think that's part of this when you're developing your gifts, building on what you know you're strong at and enhancing it. And when I look back early in my career, I just grabbed everything. If someone said to me, if you want to be a manager at this company, you need to play the flute, I'd have taken flute lessons. I'm not a flautist. I never will be, but I would have just grabbed it because it's like, go for it. And I was the guy that, they had all those leadership training courses. I was constantly trying to get into them. Oh, well, you have to know this, you have to know this. And I just collected this resume of all these things, but they were just blocks. They weren't ever connecting to build a building. They were just blocks. So I had all these blocks. Now, as I've gotten older, I realized that those blocks are really great. I finally figured out how to build the building, but I wasn't building the building at first because the foundation is what I really enjoy and what I'm really passionate about and what fits me. I didn't have that always. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Does that make any sense? I think I mixed metaphors apologetically.
Yeah. Well, I think that the overall progression of how you went through it is a little bit of how to do it. One of the things that I think likely having this group that you decided to work with, was they gave you a success path to get from where you are to where you want to go, which is really about developing your gifts. And whether it's your gifts or your goals or your business, understanding where you are and where you need to go or where you want to go is a critical piece of trying to develop anything. And if we're talking specifically about gifts, it's like, okay, this is where I have some skills. These are the gifts that I have currently. And as I think you tried to do early on, I could just keep adding gifts. And so I just have a pile of gifts all around. Or I could say, I've got this one gift that I really enjoy. And really think that, and I think that's a big part of it, is like, is this a gift that you enjoy? Because I think you're going to want to be more interested in trying to develop it. And then as you develop it, you're sort of stacking more pieces of that gift on top of it, like sort of like you said, building the building with a strong foundation in something that you have some skills at or some gifts in, and it's something that you're really fascinated by. And I think if you remember when we went back to talk about your plan that we're going to do for the workshop tomorrow, that was one of the first questions I asked, like, what are the things that you like to do? And what are the things that you think you have some skills at? Because if you like to do it, you're going to be a whole lot more interested in trying to develop it.
I think you'll inherently develop it. I like to play guitar. So if I hear a song that I like, I gravitate to it and I start fiddling around with it in a way that if you said to me, Bob, you need to know this, I don't know, pick a song, whatever it would be, and I don't like it. All right, fine, Tom. I'll try to go figure it out, but I'll do it later. And I think playing to our passions really does make it easier to go through the difficult days, right?
And more willing to do it.
Yeah, right.
if I like to do it, it's like earlier this week on Monday, we were talking about the clinic that I was involved in women's lacrosse down at a tournament in Tampa. And, those people wouldn't have shown up at the clinic if they didn't have some passion around what they were doing. And that passion might be driven by, well, if I get a higher level ranking, I might make more money. And that's okay. And here's a way that they could do it. And then there's other people who just love the sport and would have wanted to be more proficient at their craft. And so you're willing to go through the hard things, the challenging things, to try to develop that, because at those clinics, they get a lot of feedback. Some of it is feedback that they want to hear, and some of it's feedback they maybe don't want to hear. And so it's an opportunity, and yet they're willing to push through that because this is something they were interested in. If this was a gift that they had, they were like, nah, I like it, and maybe I'm a little bit good at it. I don't like it so much that I want to do the hard things to move forward.
Right.
And so I think that's a part of the whole process of finding those things we like and that we're good at, or we think we're good at. And maybe it doesn't even matter if we think we're good at them, if we really like it. Because it's interesting. You have told me about the number of times you've taken guitar lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the other day on our show, and I haven't forgotten this, and sharing our gifts is coming up, you kept talking about how lousy you were at it.
Well, taking lessons doesn't mean you're good.
No, and taking lessons means you're trying to develop it, no matter what the end of results sometimes become. Right? Like if somebody else offered you an opportunity to take some more lessons, there's a pretty good chance you'd probably, and it seemed like you liked the person. There's a pretty good chance you would do it, right?
Maybe.
Correct?
Well, the distance between me being a lousy guitarist by my estimation and me being a good guitarist by my estimation has nothing more to do than me willing to just admit that I'm doing it my way and I don't care what other people think. That's the divide.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, maybe.
Putting it into what we're talking about this week, it would be developing my gift. My gift is I play the guitar uniquely for me. It's not going to be the way you would do it. So I might interpret a song my way. It may play to my strengths, it may not, but I choose a song because I like the song and I play it the way I play it. It's not going to be the way probably that you would hear it if you heard the recording on the radio. It would be my spin on that. And if I could get comfortable with that, I think that's part of developing our gifts. Just like with this process I was going through with sales, I had to develop it so that it fit me.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And I think that's where we often get stuck is we don't acknowledge that, hey, this part doesn't fit me. I'm going through these steps. So I was talking to someone the other day and they were talking about, I really don't like making calls on the phone. And so they built their business around a way to avoid doing calls on the phone.
Sure.
And they were apologetic about it. And it's like, I don't really understand what you're apologizing for. Sounds to me like you kind of found a really great way to do this. I love it.
It fits them.
Right. And I think that's where often we struggle. Developing our gifts is saying, this is where I'm strong, and I may not be really good at this. I don't write very well on the board. You've seen my handwriting on the board. It's horrible. If I'm speaking to an audience and I need to write on the board, I typically will go to someone and say, could you do me a huge favor? I find it really hard to write on the board when I'm trying to manage things. Could you be my scribe for the next little while? And I tell you what, I'll give you a free book at the end of the presentation. And they go, oh, that'd be great. They get up, they do that. I tell them what to write, win-win. I'm using my gifts and they're using a gift they have because everyone in the room always says, oh, he's the guy because he's got such beautiful handwriting. Now this person's up there showing off their great handwriting. It may seem like a really little thing, but it's just using people's gifts. And the other thing I think I've come to realize in developing my gifts, when I'm surrounded by people who are developing their gifts, it encourages me. The how becomes more clear because I see you developing your gifts. I see you going to Tampa for the weekend to do what you do professionally. And you said yesterday, wow, you should really think about going to a speaker event. where speakers getting. And yesterday when you said that, I was like, yeah, well, Tom's putting his money where his mouth is. Maybe I should go to this thing in March. So if you're around those people that are developing their gifts, and also you can talk about it. Hey, Tom, what are you doing to develop your gifts? Hey, Bob, what are you doing to develop your gifts? That's part of what we offer with the Renegade Success Network.
Yes.
Is that opportunity to, one, what are your gifts? Two, how are you developing them? And three, celebrating the steps you take. Even if the step is microscopic in your estimation, we are all about celebrating it. I remember someone in our Renegade Success Network put out an email to their database, and they were really worried about it. It's like, I don't even think it's that good. Hey, you sent it to 400 people. That's amazing. That's awesome. That's great. Can't control what they do with it. And that's part of what that Renegade Success Network is built to do, is give you the ability to develop your gifts, identify, develop, and celebrate when you develop them.
Yeah, and I would add the other thing to it is that it's to help people get to, believe in them when they maybe don't believe that they can get to where they want to be. Because again, I think that when you're developing your gifts, it's helpful to think about. And we talked about this on Monday, like, where do I want to be? If I'm here, where do I want to be? You talked about, we were talking before about a client you were said, and they were talking about this is what they want to do with a potential client, of where they want to get to. And you're kind of like, is that going to drive you to do all the hard work to do it if their result is limited?
Right.
And you got them to maybe think about things that were possible that they couldn't imagine being possible. And I think that's part of it, is that we and others can see the potential in us that sometimes we can't see. Mm-hmm. So we play a smaller game rather than stepping out and trying to understand, where is it I really want to go? We did a workshop of a year or so ago about, stop dreaming about your goals and actually do them. And it's a little bit about what we'll do tomorrow as well. And so I think that it's helpful in all of that process is to say, like, where could I take these gifts? Now you can start to work on a process. It's interesting. So I was doing some LinkedIn. I'm in this group of people who post and comment together on each other's LinkedIn articles. And somebody wrote a post, and now I'm going to forget exactly why I went into this. But one of the posts they shared was like these 10 images of things that people say that might help you look at this a little bit differently. Like, one of them that I actually dove into was, every no leads to a yes. And so they had like a whole bunch of no's stacked up in a pyramid to the yes at the top. And as I looked at those, I was like, I don't know that I agree with the drawings on any of them. Because, and I wrote back in this person's comment is that, and I actually went to the person who wrote the article and wrote it on their post as well. And just said, every no just is another no. If you don't take the time to stop and learn, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a yes. You could ask 100 people, 1,000, 1,000,000 people the same question, and you pretty much got a 50-50 shot. They're either going to say yes or they're going to say no. And just because you ask someone else doesn't necessarily mean that the next person is going to say yes. So there was one in there that was tied to what we were talking about, and now I can't remember it. And so I'm going to jump over it. Because I think that we all have this opportunity to try to figure out where we want to go. And so often we, like your potential yesterday, sort of short sell the potential. Mm-hmm. And when we short sell the potential, are we that excited to do it? If we sort of, find something that is a stretch that's not like out of the world, at least at the moment, crazy, or that maybe can't be achieved in the next 2 to 3 years, then maybe you rein it in a little bit. And it's got to be something that is worthwhile that you want to achieve. So if you're thinking about how to develop your gifts and you haven't considered what is the big goal that you want to achieve, again, the workshop we're doing tomorrow, if you haven't considered that, how do you know how to take the steps to do it? And so to me, that's a big piece of it, is figuring out where you want to be. And then you can go back and figure out the steps to get there.
Wow. I have to give a one thing, or that was your one thing, right?
Not necessarily. No,
Okay.
because there's a piece of it that I've been saving for my one thing, because I actually had some thoughts about this morning as I was getting ready. So what's your one thing, or are you not ready?
Well, I think my one thing is that the more developing your gifts is not an A to B. There's a process, and it can take many different forms. But developing your gifts to me is taking that thing that you want to be a writer. That takes a lot of work, a lot of years. I mean, I've been writing professionally now for 30 some odd years. I bet there's 30 odd years more of learning that I could do on it. However,
there will always be learning to do.
What's that?
There will always be learning to
do. Right. But I think if you looked, I remember when I was in college and in journalism classes, worried about my style. What's my style going to be? I think now when I look at things I wrote 5 or 10 years ago, or even the Renegade Way book, I see my style in there. It took a while to develop it because I had to develop the gifts, the technical gifts. Then I had to apply them to who and what I am so that they become uniquely mine. And there are things I write, the way I write them, that like someone showed me something yesterday and they're like, I think you wrote this like 5 years ago for me. And I read through it quickly. I'm like, I did. And he was like, how do you know that? I'm like, I know how I write. And I know that's my cadence. And he was like, oh, that's really cool. And I'm like, you're a wood carver. You know when you did the carving. He's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, do you put your signature on it? No. I just know the way I carve. I think it's the same thing. And I think as we develop our gifts, we get to that place where it becomes uniquely our own at some point.
I like that.
Thank you.
So here's mine.
All right, I'm ready. You're going to blow my mind.
No, I think it's simple, and yet many people don't head down this pathway for whatever reason.
Okay.
I think that, and we'll talk about the challenges tomorrow. Developing your gifts and how to do it is the biggest challenge that there might be, because we don't know how to do it.
Okay.
So to me, the first step is finding someone who does. Now, there's a caveat to that. Find someone who does, who's not going to tell you how to do it, who's going to help you figure out how you can do it. I think there's a difference.
So support you as you figure out how to do it, not tell you how to do it.
Correct. To me, it's like it's a mentor or a coach. And you can pay them or not pay them. They can be your best friend or not. You can look at them as an example. And yet, if someone is going to tell you, they can tell you how to get to where you want to go, I would be cautious. In my mind, this is Tom's opinion.
Right. No, I would agree with that.
If you have someone who says, I want to help you figure out how to get to where you want to be, because it's not my gift, it's not my goal, and I don't know what makes you unique yet, to help you figure out what are the steps that you need to take to get to where you want to be. Because the steps that I took might not necessarily work for someone. I'll go take it to my officiating. Someone come up and said, well, Tom, I know that you're now a college level official and I'd like to get there. Tell me what I need to do. And I can say, well, I can tell you what I did.
Right.
First, I got married to someone who eventually decided they wanted to be an official 3 or 4 years later. Then I spent 15 years watching them officiate and talking about their games afterwards because they were interested in doing it. And then they got asked to assign some tournaments, and I took over assigning them. So, my path is unique because we're all unique.
Right.
And so all I can do is I can ask you questions about your path. What are the gifts that you have, and where do you want to take them? And then I can ask you questions about, okay, what are the things that you enjoy doing? Great, let's work on that. How do we develop that piece of it? You know, I'm really fit. I love to run up and down the field. I'm like, great. Now let's make sure that now as we do that, as you run up and down the field, I can maybe help refine some things, some suggestions about positioning and what you're looking at. And again, as people learn, they do, and then they learn. Now you have a chance to really develop the gifts that you have and that you want to. So that's my big thing, is find somebody who can help you do that. Which is, again, what our Renegade Success Network is all about. It's not Bob and I telling you what to do. I shouldn't say never. I try really hard not to tell people what to do. Even if they ask. If they ask, I'll usually ask them a question back.
Right.
It's really about helping you understand where you are, figure out where you want to be, and then we work together to help you understand what is unique about you. What are your uniques and gifts and how to develop them.
And we celebrate the successes along the way. And we also support you when things don't go as you expected.
And I think that's all the outcome of who are the people you find that are not just telling you what to do.
Right. I couldn't agree more.
And there are people out there who are looking for that. That's okay. And there are people out there who will do that for you. And that's okay as well, because we're unique and we have to find our own pathway.
I like that. We should make that slogan.
You think? Use that a little bit more?
Yeah. Maybe once, twice an episode.
Fair enough. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of our show. Of course, if you have your antidote to developing your gifts and how to do it, we would love for you to share it. If you're listening to the podcast and you can't share it on social media, at least at the moment, you can always go to LinkedIn, if you're a LinkedIn person, and share and join our Renegade Success Network for Leaders group. You can share it there. Or if you're a Facebook person, you can join us in the Ring of Renegades and share your thoughts and ideas there, or your one thing. Because we know that when we share the value that we have, others' gifts may be impacted by that.
We have a really good question up there, Tom, today.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
In fact, I just put it up. What's your best gift that you use or share each day in your work? So an opportunity in there to just see what people's gifts are, which could lead to a discussion. Wow, I'm looking for someone who did that. I didn't know you did that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know that not sure that I know what my best gift is, because others take it as they receive it and they determine whether it's my best gift. Is that fair?
It's fair, but I think you know what your best gift is. You have an assessment of what your best gift is, whatever.
So you just completely disregarded what I said.
No, I'm not disregarding what you said. I'm just trying to make sure
use the word
question doesn't have to be removed.
You did use the word but.
Well,
I agree with what you said, but anyhow, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Tough crowd.
Because I didn't really coach you today, did I? You see, you missed. You thought I was going to coach you.
I think I coached myself.
Maybe. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being a part of our show. We look forward to seeing you inside of those groups. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of today's Antidote. Have a great day.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. It's worth it.
It absolutely is. And if you're trying to figure out how to do it, go out there. Make it a great day. And you might be surprised what you find when you're not even looking for it. Indeed. All right, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.